As I'm sure many of you are aware, Walt Disney World currently finds themselves in a very unique situation. For the first time in their history, ever since Magic Kingdom first opened, Walt Disney World actually has a direct competitor, that being Universal Orlando Resort. Since the opening of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter back in 2010, Universal has more than doubled their annual attendance, while in that same time, Disney's growth slowed. And as a result of this, as Universal themselves have made very clear, they are steadily gaining market share on Disney. And guess what, folks? Things are just starting to heat up because Universal has a third theme park on the way, not to mention at least one new hotel opening up by 2025. Couple this with internal issues at the parks, from overcrowding to long lines to tedious trip planning and of course high prices, and as you can see, Disney is left with a lot on their plate. So that brings us to earlier this month, where Disney held their first D23 Expo since 2019. At this event, there is always a panel for the Disney parks when they announce a few projects and plans for the coming years. So many people, myself included, were watching this with bated breath, waiting to see what Disney had up their sleeves to not only improve the parks as they stand today, but to also hold off the threat that is Universal looming in the distance. So imagine my disappointment, my disbelief, my disgust when Disney comes out and announces basically nothing new. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. They announced a new animatronic for the Haunted Mansion and a new meet and greet with Figment. Wow, that's incredible! Wee-hee! The rest of what we got were opening dates for stuff that they had already previously announced. The Tron roller coaster at the Magic Kingdom is finally opening up next year. Took you long enough. That thing was announced back in 2017. It's a roller coaster with minimal theming. How did it take this long? I have no idea. I mean, this thing's a clone. You already built it once. How hard could it be to build it again? And then in 2024, we're getting the Splash Mountain retheme to Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which obviously we all know why this is happening, but it is a shame that that money had to get put towards a retheme instead of getting put towards an actual new ride that could have added more capacity to the parks. And then they also said when this Moana walkthrough thing is opening, who cares? I literally do not care about this. I'm never doing it. And what's funny about this is that the other parks in the Disney chain all got pretty decent additions. I mean, there wasn't really anything new announced for them either, but you know, a lot of the international parks are getting completely new lands. It seems that Disneyland's still trying to push for an expansion there. So there are at least interesting, exciting things going on there, but what's interesting is that those parks face way less threat and way less competition than Disney World does, and Disney World is the breadwinner. It's the most attended resort in the whole chain. It's the one that brings in the most money. Why in the world would you want to spend the least amount of money there? Does Disney really think that this is the epic universe killer? That Tron and the Splash Mountain retheme and the Moana walkthrough attraction are going to be good enough to hold people off from going to Epic Universe? Well, surely not. I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to convince people to not go to Epic Universe. It's a brand new theme park in the area. Almost everybody's going to include it on their trips. But what you can do is you could still sell people to keep Disney as the main part of their trip. Just do Epic Universe, but not do the rest of Universal, and keep Disney as the rest of your trip. So in order to achieve this, what Disney has to do is they need to improve their parks significantly enough so people aren't like, well, actually, you know, especially since it's cheaper to go to Universal, I'd rather just do Studios and Islands of Volcano Bay instead. But if Disney improves their parks and makes enough big changes and adds enough new rides, all of a sudden people are going to be like, well, actually, I mean, there are more new things to do at Disney since the last time I was there, so I'm actually going to go there instead. That's how you battle Epic Universe over the next decade. It's not about convincing people to not go to Epic Universe, because you can't do that. It's about keeping Disney as the main part of the trip. If you can do that, you won the battle. Especially when you consider that Disney does not work as the minor part of a trip. It doesn't work. The trip planning process is far too time consuming, far too tedious, far too difficult for people to deal with it when Disney's not the main focus of their trip. When they're coming for Universal and then Disney's just a tack-on day, people don't want to deal with all of this reservation crud. Excuse my language. But seriously, nobody likes how annoying it is to plan a trip to Disney. I mean, to Universal, you book your ticket, you're done. At Disney, you gotta deal with a bunch of reservations, you gotta deal with boarding passes, you gotta deal with all this stupid stuff that takes up your time, stresses you out, and makes it more difficult. And people are willing to deal with it when the main thing they're coming to Orlando for is Disney. People are willing to suck it up. Nobody likes it, but they're willing to suck it up for it. When Disney is not the main part of your trip, are people going to be willing to go through that? People might just say, especially with how expensive Disney is, they might just say, you know what, we're going to skip Disney on this trip, right? We'll do more Universal, we'll do Legoland, we'll do SeaWorld, we'll do Busch Gardens, because those parks are cheaper and they're easier to plan for. And of course, if you do decide to go to Disney and you don't do all the necessary planning beforehand, guess what? You're going to have a subpar day. There's no way around it. That's just the way Disney works. And ultimately, when it's the minor part of your trip, you don't want to be doing that. So either you don't go or you go and you have a disappointing time. So pretty much that was a long-winded way of saying that Disney really needs to step up their game if they want any chance of holding their ground against Epic Universe. And if Disney really thinks that these additions are good enough to hold off that onslaught, you're out of your mind. You're actually out of your mind. And here's another reason why this is so shocking to me. Disney has experienced this before with Universal, right? When Universal opened up the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, how long did it take Disney to have a proper response? Almost a decade, until Pandora and Galaxy's Edge opens up. And what happens? Universal more than doubles their attendance in that time because Disney was so late to respond. You would think, with how much that cost them in market share, that they wouldn't make that mistake again. Whenever Universal had something major up their sleeve, they would have something ready to respond with, so that way Universal's impact of that major thing wouldn't be eating away at them as much as the Wizarding World of Harry Potter did. And yet, what do we have here? This is clearly not enough to answer the call of duty to stop what Epic Universe is going to be able to do here. Meaning that, guess what? Disney's sitting back and relaxing. They're going to say, we're going to wait and see what Epic Universe does, and then we'll make a big addition. Like, come on. How many times we got to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
Seriously, Disney, you should be shaking your boots. You should be scared of Universal's Epic Universe. You should be worried. You should be concerned. Based on these additions, it looks like you really are not worried at all, which is just delusional, I guess, is the best way to put it. But here's the crazy part. Disney has a bunch of things just waiting in the bay, things that they've announced in the past or things that they've closed and just sitting there vacant, ready to be replaced, that they didn't even mention. Like, for instance, do you remember Stitch's Great Escape? I don't. That thing closed years ago and it's still sitting vacant. What about Fantasmic? Is that show ever reopening? Hollywood Studios could certainly use the capacity. What about that Toy Story Land restaurant? Is that ever opening? Guess not. Remember when they announced the Mary Poppins ride and the Spaceship Earth refurbishment and of course, this play pavilion for Epcot? Any mention of that? No, of course not. Oh, and what about the Walt Disney World Railroad? Remember when that closed because you were building Tron and it's been closed forever, pretty much? You want to maybe talk about reopening that, or is that just never going to reopen? No, of course they don't talk about these things. And as far as we know, because they don't mention them, they have no plans for them, which is really unbelievably sad, because this stuff's like the bare minimum. This is stuff that you either were already working on or have just sitting there on a platter waiting for you to do something with it, and you're just doing nothing. Instead, what does Disney do with the rest of their time on this panel? They go ahead and they speculate on different ideas that they've had for the parks. They propose a new idea for Dinoland USA to replace it and retheme it with Moana and Zootopia. Okay, but you're not actually doing it. You're just saying, oh yeah, we thought about it. Who cares? They talk about expanding the Magic Kingdom with a new land. Okay, are you gonna do it? Well, no, we're still thinking about it. Shut up! I don't care! Now, there were a couple of the reasons why Disney did this other than just fill up the rest of the time of the panel because they had nothing else to announce. They also did it, I think, to kind of hear out audience response to some of these ideas, like were people actually interested in Dinoland USA getting rethemed and getting an expansion land for Magic Kingdom, right? They wanted to hear out interest, I think. So they were kind of throwing those ideas out there to get some level of market research done in a certain sense. And it was also their way of saying, yeah, listen guys, we know we really didn't announce much and this was kind of disappointing, but hey, we're working on stuff, promise. So I get that, but it kind of comes off as really bad when your parks really need new stuff and you basically just announced nothing before that. So yeah, kind of embarrassing. What's funny about these blue sky ideas as well is that they didn't even come up with anything for Hollywood Studios. The one part that's in complete disarray and has the worst overcrowding problem, has the longest lines in the entire resort. Yeah, no, that park's fine. Let's talk more about the Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom. What a joke. So in looking at Disney's announcements leading up to Epic Universe, what we can basically discern is that either one, Disney has no plan to address Epic Universe and to address the internal issues at the parks, or two, this is their plan and it sucks. Now, I'm not going to put complete blame on this on the parks division for this lackluster plan, because obviously there could very well be budgetary restrictions that were put on them by corporate that maybe restrict the amount of things they're actually able to implement. But either way, it really doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's still a terrible plan, and it's ultimately, let's be honest, not going to work out. Now, honestly, I hope that Disney has something absolutely massive planned for 2025 and beyond that we just don't even know about, right? They're keeping secret, they're keeping hidden, maybe they don't want Universal to know about it. But let's be honest, Disney works at a snail's pace. They take forever. We just mentioned Tron. That thing was announced back in 2017. It's opening in 2023. There are jokes going around that a kid that was born the year it was announced is going to be able to ride it when it comes out. Oh my God. There's just no shot that they have anything up their sleeves. No shot. I'm sure the Universal Orlando team had a nice watch party at the office, put on the Disney Parks panel at D23, and had a nice laugh and smile when they saw this timeline come with the board and saw nothing that posed any threat to them. Oh wait, but I'm sorry folks, it appears that I lied to you. The title of this video is incorrect. Disney does have a plan for the future, and that plan is to continue raising prices. Let's go! Hell yeah, that's exactly what the parks need. That's the solution to all of our problems. Higher prices. Yeah, let's go. Some of you may be priced out, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.